it's a little bit larger, and it has, I usually point out, it has one of the most important people in town in this picture. This gentleman right here is picking up some manure. Because look at all the horses and mules that are, there's no cars in that time period. So he's probably wasn't paid very much, but he was one of the most important people in the town.
What's the year that was taken?
I don't know, it's probably late 1800s. I don't have an exact date, but certainly there are no cars in there, so that time period, early 1900s maybe. This one down here is the 1920s or so. As you can see, some of the autos, the 1920 autos at that place at that point in time. Again, Tomlinson Hall right there with the market vendors right in front of it. And again, in these pictures, especially this one and some of these over here, you can see the streetcar rails that went up and down Market and Delaware Street. And one other little tidbit, where it says Taggart's Bread, in that building was a bakery, obviously, and supposedly Wonder Bread was invented there, the formula for Wonder Bread. They eventually sold the formula apparently to Colonial, who came up with the "Built Strong by these 12 ways" slogan. But apparently that was where the formula was actually invented. So just kind of neat to see some of these. So as we go in, I want to warn you again, it's a dirt floor, it's kind of uneven. There's some trip hazards I'll point out. And please try and stay together a little bit and don't go wandering off. Some of the bays do have some wires hanging down, and so we don't want you wandering off to get hurt or anything else like that. So just be cautious of that.
There's the bakery over there. Hope the sunshine gets to come. It's where the cheese is.
We call these the catacombs. They are not like the catacombs of Europe, which are burial grounds. There are no bodies down here, at least that we know of. So, but it is basically the basement and the foundation for that large structure that was Tomlinson Hall. It's about 20,000 square feet down here total. There's 120 or so of these brick columns all over the place. Everywhere you look is brick columns, the arches between it, barrel walls with ceilings between each bay. So they're just everywhere you look. They're on a very regular grid pattern. And the arches are, like I said, are the strongest structure you can probably build out of masonry. So that's why they're like that, because of they were the basic foundations for Tomlinson Hall. We also have some bigger limestone foundations, parts of it. And there you can still see the quarry marks where they drill holes in the limestones and break it out of the quarry. And so they had to put them on a horse and wagon to get them to a train station to get them up here for the masons to do their work. The early history and uses of this space are not well documented. There's a basement, nobody really paid attention to what was down here or kept track of things. We're fairly certain that the theater would have stored scenery and props down here. Some of the vendors would have stored some of their things for their stalls, possibly some of their goods down here. It's warm now, but when the building was here, it was probably like a typical basement of 55, 60 degrees. And that was what it was in February when we did it for that week of the Super Bowl. But this summer, we've been very surprised at how warm it has been down here. The plaza right above us where we were, the sun beats down on it all day long. And that heat, we think, will sort of keep through, and it's been very, very warm down here.
Well, it gets reflect heat too. So I was sitting in one of those chairs, and the sun coming off that gold building was it seriously warmed that area.
Right.
This area.
Yeah. So we expected it to be the typical basement temperature, and it's not been at all. It's been very close down here. So Those are some of the things we think we know about some of that early uses. Like I said, it's a unique space. Many people really didn't even realize it was here. And before we started doing these tours, relatively few people were able to get down here. So what you step along here, it's a trip hazard a little bit. So a couple things that we do know happened down here. For a couple years in the mid-90s, they got a waiver from the fire marshal to get large numbers of people down here for a haunted house during Halloween time. So this is left over from that era. Rats welcome entrance on that side. So it's really been a perfect space, use of this space. Unfortunately, the fire marshal is no longer willing to give them that dispensation. So it's sort of a nice idea, but they can't do that anymore. The market really would like to find a use for this space. Unfortunately, it's going to take a whole lot of money just to bring it even up to code. So it's not going to happen anytime soon, unfortunately. But they really would like to use this space and try and find a way to make some more money out of it, but it's not feasible at the current time. If you come down this way, just stay to your right because we have a large hole here. This area is another one of those mysteries. We have strange things stuck in the walls here. We don't know if they were original or added later for some purpose. We don't know what those things even do, what purpose they are. The pulleys there, somebody suggested they were pulling cables for some reason. Don't know. There's hooks and eyes even in the ceiling. Possibly they'd hang a side of a beef or something there to do some butchering. That's a guess. We don't know even for sure. Well, I'll tell you a little bit of a story about that here in a bit. But yeah, it's some of the questions we do not have answers for. So it's a thing.
When was the hall built?
1886. So this is original, pretty much the structure. We think it's always been a dirt floor. Some of the concrete stuff has been added later.
Well, it dates after America abolished slavery, so that would eliminate those kind of things.
Yeah, people ask if it's Underground Railroad, but yeah, you're right. It's much too late.
Much too late.
Yeah.
About 30 years.
So, during Super Bowl week, when we did these tours that time, we had an 85-year-old gentleman come in who said his father actually had a stall up on Tomlinson Hall along Market Street there. And as a 5-year-old, he would come down here and play and get his lunch and bring it down here to eat. So it's kind of neat to hear some of those first-hand accounts. And there may have been possibly even vendors down here at that time. He, as a 5-year-old, he didn't quite remember. But then, the night he proposed to his wife in the 40s, they were at a play at Tomlinson Hall in that convention, in that auditorium. So like I said, it's kind of neat to hear some of those first-hand accounts of some of those things.
And he was how old, 80?
85.
Cool.
And then he could still remember coming down here to play. Let's go around the corner and again, look at the step right here. One of the mysteries we do think we have solved is this corner room right here. Go ahead and take your picture, whatever you need. This one.
Oh,
When we first came down here, we wondered, well, why was there a little room right here? And we sort of figured out that this was the southwest corner of the building where that extra tower was. And so they needed a little bit of more support for that extra structure. So that's one reason we think this longest wall was part of that extra foundation part of it. We also have been told by somebody that was here contemporary that those towers were stairwells, and there was one that came down here to the basement also as part of a restroom. May have been down here. Again, he was elderly and sort of remembering as a child, so we'll take that as a grain of salt. But it makes sense that the towers were stairwells. So it's probably like that along here.
Well, they probably offered a pretty reasonable view of the city as well.
Yeah.
Because they were a little bit taller than the hall itself, and there were none of these other buildings around.
Right. The monument was built, just started a few years later than that, so it was one of the taller structures in this part of the city for sure. That was one though. This is along Delaware Street here, and they've been blocked up obviously for a long time. They're no longer visible from street level, but they had windows in to get more light, natural light down here. If they had more, originally probably would have been a lantern.
So they truly do go to the street.
Because
I would have, if I had to put money on it, that would have been some form of a coal chute delivery system.
Well, they're all
for
along.
goods or what have you, so.
They're all along the walls here on both sides, so it's.
That prominent, it wouldn't have been any of those things.
Yeah,
That many.
and if there were coal-fired boilers down here, but it's more logical to assume they would have been delivered from the alley, as opposed to busy Delaware Street. Take a little bit down here.
Yeah.
Since it started raining, we do have some leaks and some deterioration. And then above that arch is a piece of wood, so maybe that was a sign for something. There's little pegs along each one of these arches, so maybe they had to block these
Just like the city.
interiors off for some reason. We don't know exactly what they were for, but they've certainly been there for a while. One of the things we did take down here, though, in the 1970s, late 1970s, early 1980s, the state started the lottery, and they had a TV show, and they shot a commercial down here. And you mentioned the torture part of it. They chained the host up between a company's column someplace, and he was being tormented by an over-the-top character. The production company also brought in a live vermin trainer. She brought in 17 trained rats to run over the host and torment him some more. So they finish up with the commercial, and she starts picking up her rats and throwing them in their cages. And people were being real helpful. I saw one over there, a couple over there, and she runs, throws them in the cage, starts counting. 16, 17, 18, 19. So it came with 17, ended up with 20. So we had a few extra recruits. Since that time, they've done a good job exterminating them, and we haven't seen any rats for a little while. But it's kind of a funny story that she ended up with a few extra to be trained.
Probably had a really good life then.
Yeah, they were probably well fed at that point. They didn't have to cram
that's
for
cool,
it.
isn't it?
We also know that in the 1950s, the police had a shooting range someplace down here. We're not exactly sure how it was arranged or where it was, but we do know they came down here for a while to have a shooting range. I'm sure at the time they were not using hearing protection.
Yeah.
And so the gunshots echoing off the brick walls, I'm sure we had some deaf cops at the time too. But that was some of the things we do know took place down here.
Is that leather or steel up there?
That is steel, the strap, again.
Don't know why, yeah, I was just looking at,
Yeah, it's,
Well, there's,
Before you guys started doing the tours, was there a lot of junk down here that needed to be cleaned out, or was it pretty cleaned
it
up?
was pretty much as you see it. Some of the things have been rearranged. But for, when other people have been down there for other purposes, they actually shot another commercial for our organization, down here. And so they did some rearranging of things, but, otherwise it's pretty much the way it was when we first came down here. It's used for storage in some of the other parts of it you'll see, but otherwise it's pretty much as what we first found. Let's go down to the corner here. Explain a little bit more. Along here, and there's stripping, so you might want to have a camera right in here. We're not going in this room. There's the remnants of an old door here. But the reason we aren't going in, that's the main electrical inlet for the market. And all the utilities are underground, so 440 volts and a wet floor, we are not going in there. But this is the southeast corner of the building, and that one remaining arch then is on this corner of the building where it is above it. So it tells you a little bit how things are oriented.
that's a wooden beam over.
Yeah, the remnants of a door for something.
Yeah, and it looks charred too. To me, or just
Or
mildew.
Yeah,
Was this a window up here?
yes,
Okay.
also. Again, they've been blocked up for years.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when, but
Look how thick those walls
they're
are.
not.
Oh, already.
When we come around the corner, look the step right here, there's another bolt in the floor. Let's go up to the cart there, please. Plus the building itself.
Yeah, plus the building itself, exactly.
That's the reason for the particular pattern.
Yeah, this would have been, exactly.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
My bad.
We're both looking around.
I'll go ahead and step behind you and tell you a little bit about the story behind these carts. Several years ago, the market bought them from someplace in Florida, and they sent a couple of the employees down to pick them up and drive them back in a U-Haul. So it took them apparently a few extra days to come back because they did a rather roundabout route doing some sightseeing. But they got them back, and most of them have been reconditioned and are in use upstairs in the market. Vendors will have, if they have a small stand, they can use those for their things. There's one used for information purposes, brochures and things. This one is left over. If they still need it, it's here and it can be refurbished and used, but most of them are in use upstairs. If you go up there, you can see them. I'm not exactly sure, they're not real ancient. They're not from the 1880s or 1890s, but they're not very modern either, so, like I said, most of them have been reconditioned and are in use. This one is just the one that's left down here. They can still use it if they need to.
And because you know that, question's next. See, now, I look at this, you know what would be fun in here? Take out about 2/3 of the light bulbs, paintball.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, see, I'm not the only one. Take out 2/3 of the lights and paintball.
Had to have real medics though too. Medic.
Yeah, you really would. Well, just vegetable oil and food coloring, but it would.
Well, I mean, you're running into these
Oh, yeah,
walls
you'd
and
be
the bolts
sweating,
and.
yeah.
And the market employees can come down here for breaks or for lunch and sometimes meetings, so somebody's arranged some chairs over there for meeting purposes or something like that, so they're still there. Not real old, but They're there for people that want to use them, like I said, park employees. So this is another mystery we have, of why they blocked up these particular arches along this wall. It's different style bricks, the workmanship is not near what it was, as good as in the rest of the space down here. So why they needed to block them up, we don't know. It's the same, exact same thing on the other side of it as it is here. So, why they needed to do that, we don't know. And in this corner over here behind you is this triangular hole. We don't have a clue. It's, yeah, it's just.
Or the escape route.
Whatever. Yeah, it's just very strange to even not keep it square. There it is, triangular hole.
It's a really
Whatever reason.
triangle.
Great for paintball. Huh?
Oh, okay.
I'd be sniping from there.
Hell yeah.
Be my spawn point.
So that's why,
Spawn point.
we don't know.
No, it was hastily thrown out. I mean, I don't know if it's bricklayers. Right? That was thrown out in a hurry. Maybe they needed extra. Dance hall. You should have this for a bedroom. I can't find the knob.
Water foundation for that, 1977 wing. So that was that, yeah, there's nothing different. So these pins are a final little mystery. We're not sure if they're original or they were dug later on for some purpose. I did mention that there were coal-fired boilers down here. Somebody asked a question about coal delivery. So maybe this is where the boilers were, or maybe this is where the coal was stored. Somebody suggested that they were dug out. When the building was here, it was the 55 degrees or so it may have been ice storage. Again, guesses, but again, we don't know the dates or exactly the purpose, but those were some of the things that we did, have been suggested as might be the purpose of these particular pits.
Some of it may have been, just a thought, some of it may have been modified during the era of Prohibition. I mean, they wouldn't have built that because Prohibition, was well after this, but some of it may have been changed for some of that.
I'm sure that was not documented well either.
Yankees just didn't make it onto the map. I don't know why.
Not officially, anyway. So, the Prohibition Convention was long gone at that point. So, this is our space. As I said, it's a very unique space. Most people didn't really even know it existed. And until we started doing these tours, relatively few people were able to get down here to see the space. Since then, these things have become very, very popular. We've been astounded at the number of people we've been able to show the space to. And so, thank you for doing this tour. I hope you've enjoyed learning something about the heritage of the market and Tomlinson Hall and really why they were meaningful places to the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Confuses me.
I want to put this on YouTube. Yeah.
Don't leave the light bulb. That's what I'm saying.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to get a picture of the arch.
And this is City Market, where I used to eat when I worked downtown. All the restaurants are gone on this part, but in the other part outside, I believe there's still restaurants.